What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we're going to be taking a look at another really exciting new character card coming out in Wave 3 of the Transformers trading card game. And this one's going to look slightly familiar, at least thematically, because it does follow on from a bunch of them that we've seen over the last few days. We're getting a new Wheeljack! Yay! Now, of course, we did have a Wheeljack back in Wave 1, and the Wheeljack back in Wave 1 was a really good card that still sees quite a bit of play. It's a 9-cost card with above average health and pretty good attack in at least one of its modes. Then you get bold free if there's a weapon in your scrap pile, and you get, when you upgrade one of your cards, to draw a card and then scrap a card from your hand. Pretty good card that's seen play in a bunch of cards' decks. Can the new one stand up to it? Well, the lovely Matt Smith has revealed it today over on the official Facebook group, and I really like the look of it. It is again a 9-star card, so we are right in line with Wave 1 Wheeljack, and the stats are just a little bit worse. The attack is either 5 or 4, just like the one from Wave 1. The defense is either 1 or 2, just like the one from Wave 1. The big difference here is we've got a health of 12 rather than a health of 13, so objectively the stats are a little bit worse despite it being a 9-cost. But it's all about the skills here, and when we're in bot mode there's a very interesting, though initially confusing skill. When you play your third action during your turn, draw a card. Now, on the one hand, drawing is good. On the other hand, well, hang on a second. You're only allowed to play one action per turn. Now, to be fair, there are ways around this. So, for instance, we've got either Bumblebee from Wave 2, or we've got Mirage from Wave 1, both of whom let you play an extra action when you flip into alt mode. And then you could use something like Rollout, for instance. So you would play Rollout, which would be your first action. Flip both of those bots, each of which lets you play another action. There's 3 actions, and oh look, you get to draw a card. Of course, you would also have to flick Captain Wheeljack if you played Rollout, which means you'd no longer be in bot mode, which means that you wouldn't actually get to draw the card. We'd need a ruling on that, but essentially, we'll probably be alright. Point is, drawing 3 cards in one turn is not exactly terribly easy until we start to have a look at Brainstorm. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Brainstorm is really where we're going with this. And, true to form, we've got an alternate art reprint of Brainstorm in this very set. Just like we had the alternate art force field and a private trailbreaker that got to search for it and attach it on the first turn of the game. Well, indeed, before the first turn of the game, right at the start of the game. And just yesterday we had a look at the new Ratchet, where we had a reprint of Medic, and then we got to search our deck for a Medic and put it into our hand at the beginning of the game. Well, we see a very, very similar thing here, because when you look at our alt mode skill, bearing in mind you start the game in alt mode, before the game begins, you may reveal a Brainstorm from your deck and put it into your hand. As a side note, the other one we've seen here is Ultra Magnus, which can do this with Ultra Magnus Armor, a straight attach. Cool. So what we see here is another one of these, and from what it said in the note they put on the Facebook group, it does seem to be the last one, and I know that because in there they literally write, the last of a pretty cool cycle of Autobots I designed. That, ladies and gentlemen, was my first clue. So, like I said in the Ratchet video yesterday, there's no Decepticons yet, but now we appear to have confirmation that at least for now, we ain't getting none of those Decepticons. Alright then. So we've got Brainstorm, and Brainstorm says that you get to play an action, then another action. You just get to play 3 actions in one go. Oh look, now you're activating the bot mode skill, and that's really where we're going here. We've got other things we can do here, but really, we are focusing on having a play around with Brainstorm. Now, somebody did point out that the wording has ever so slightly changed on Brainstorm. You may play an action, then you play another action, and it doesn't say may, but it doesn't need to say may. As Matt Smith did point out in the comment section to this article, any time you do something in a hidden area, that being your deck, your hand, somewhere your opponent isn't allowed to look, it's always an option. So okay, the Wave 1 print said may and the Wave 3 print doesn't, that really doesn't matter. It's still an optional thing. Now, like we said with Ratchet yesterday, one of the cool things about this is that you start the game with a card advantage. You start the game with one more card in hand than you otherwise would. But it's even better than that, ladies and gentlemen, because actually you start with Brainstorm. Now, there's no guarantee that you're going to start the game with 2 actions in hand. And even if you do start the game with 2 actions in hand, there's no guarantee you're going to want to play both of those actions. But it doesn't matter, ladies and gentlemen. That's not the point. The point is that the option is there. That's what's so great about this. And here's the thing. Unless your opponent is playing some kind of hand disruption, a system reboot, for instance, that makes both players scrap their hand and draw 4 cards, then you're going to be all right. So you don't have to play that Brainstorm turn 1. You can stash it. You can keep that Brainstorm in your hand for the future. And I think that's the key here. It gives you the option. And you can do it straight away, or you can save it and keep going in future turns. You're only allowed to play 1 action on turn 1, but Brainstorm being your 1 action, well, that actually opens you up to a couple of others. So you can have a really nuts turn 1 with this. But to be fair, in any turn you can only play 1 action. The difference is that on turn 1 you can choose an action or an upgrade. Outside of that, you can go action and upgrade. This is really, really nice. Now, as for the drawing a card, it's alright. I mean, look, it's not great draw power. We've had plenty of characters in the past that have let you draw a card, and honestly, most of them have let you draw more than this. It's really not stunning. I mean, if we look at the other Wheeljack, for instance, when you upgrade one of your cards, draw a card, then scrap a card, alright, you have to scrap a card so it's more cycling your hand than giving you card advantage. But even so, that's much easier to pull off than essentially you must play a Brainstorm. So, and don't get me wrong, right? If you're playing a Brainstorm anyway, that's pretty good. I'm just not loving it. I mean, if we look at Cliff Jumper, the convention exclusive, that's an 8 cost car, and when you flip one of your other characters to bot mode, you get to draw a card. And that's significantly easier to pull off. I think the drawing a card is a handy bonus, but I think what's great about Captain Wheeljack is just getting that Brainstorm out turn 1. And then you can flip it into bot mode and leave it there for the rest of the game. You lose the card designation and you lose 1 attack, but you gain 1 defense. And other than being a car and getting higher attack, there's no other reason to leave Wheeljack in ult mode. You're not having any real advantage to being in ult mode because your skill, it happens before the game begins, and then that's it. You don't really have a skill. You're essentially a vanilla character in ult mode for the rest of the game. Now, in terms of being a car, there's a lot to like about this. We've got some buffs like Wave 1 Prowl, a particular favourite of mine, whereby in one mode, one of your cards gets KO'd and you repair 3 damage from another character, and in the other mode, when you flip to it, the alt mode, each of your cards gets bowled 2 until the end of turn. And then you got stuff like Start Your Engines, for instance, which is a fun little card that lets you flip over all of your cars and then untap one of them. Well, it lets you flip all your bots into cars. Or maybe something like Turbo Boosters, for instance, which is a fun little upgrade that we got, which when you attach it to a car, you untap. We do have some untapping options. Or maybe going into Wave 2, you want to have a look at Bumpers, which stops damage counters being moved from other characters to the upgraded character. So, you know, There's some fun things to play around with here, and of course I do need to mention that it is a specialist, so you do have options here in terms of Field Communicator that lets you play the top card of your deck. And one that I like rather a lot here, we've got all the multis here. Well, we've actually got multi-mission gear here, which lets you play an action when you attach it to a specialist. Bearing in mind, you are a specialist and you want to play extra actions, so that could be kind of fun. So there's quite a lot to like about this. Beginning a game for a Brainstorm, good. Being a specialist, good. Being a car, pretty good. The stats aren't phenomenal, and the skill in bot mode is nice, but it's essentially you draw an extra card when you play a Brainstorm. Now that makes a phenomenal card even better, but it's not going to be a reliable turn after turn skill that gives you a huge card advantage. But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, I consider myself rather a fan of this. But I would like to know what you consider yourself, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! But please do remember the rule, ladies and gentlemen. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about games like Transformers, but also a whole bunch of others. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.